Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by you. If you would like to support the show, head over to berniesbootlegs.com/support. Every contribution will go towards the production costs and overhead of running the podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated and will ensure I can keep making episodes into the future. Thanks everybody and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Bernie's Bootlegs podcast, where we explore the stories of successful musicians and share their perspectives on being an artist in a digital age. I'm your host, Kenny McCabe, and let's get into the show. In today's episode, we're speaking with vocalist Kristina Koller. We discussed her early musical history, her thoughts on jazz school, how she thinks about genres and blending different styles of music, jam session etiquette, and much more. You can find Kristina on her website at kristinakoller.net and also on Instagram at kkollermusic. And so without further ado, I bring you my conversation with Kristina Koller. Okay, guys, I'm here with Kristina Koller. Kristina, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I am doing great. It's a rainy Halloween day.
Yeah, exactly. And it is indeed Halloween. Are you going trick-or-treating or no?
Oh, yeah, because I'm a kid still. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I could get away with that for sure.
I don't know. I think I went trick-or-treating until I was probably like 20. Just because, I don't know. I mean, candy's pretty cool and it's free. I don't know. But
as long as you look young with your costume on, right? Like,
exactly. And, you know, I look pretty young. You know, I haven't got the beard thing going quite yet, but I'm working on it, you know, day by day. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about how you got into music and your early musical beginnings, you know, starting to sing, what your family was like, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so when I was about 8 years old, like my best friend at the time, she was doing a lot of musical theater stuff, and I got really into it. So I started taking voice lessons. I was in musicals for 8 years of my life. I sang classical at one point, even performed in an opera. And then in middle school and high school, I was trying out different stuff. I made my own rock band. I learned the ukulele. I did open mics, farmers markets. And then come college, I was I don't want to do musical theater. I don't want to do classical. I want to try something different. So I decided to try out jazz. And that's how it all began with jazz. Now, when I was younger, my parents would play classic rock, Motown, and jazz. That was the primary basis of what we listened to growing up. Well, what I listened to when I was growing up. So now I feel my music has evolved into all these different genres. Just because it's all coming back to me. I now I'm in a 90s kick where I'll just go and listen to a bunch of 90s music because I miss that stuff so much, you know. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. Jazz just came about because, you know, I wanted to try something new, and then I ended up loving it. And then songwriting came after college, actually. And arranging, for that matter. Once I was at the end of college, I was I'm ready to do something different. I always try to keep pushing myself to discover new things, new sounds and whatnot. So
for sure. Now, was your family musicians at all, or were they just music interested people?
My dad plays the guitar as a hobby, and also my brother used to play guitar. He used to, you know, use Ableton and stuff. Now I have Ableton. I'm starting to learn that. But yeah, I mean, they definitely had an influence of me trying to learn music and instruments and stuff. So for sure, my dad, for sure, I would say.
So in high school, did you have any kind of other thoughts about, you know, different kind of careers? Was there parental support for pursuing a career in music? What were you thinking about at that time?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, I'm very lucky to have very supportive parents. I consider them my managers and my bookers because they help me with a lot. I'm very grateful for that. But I also a part of me, I did actually do an internship with a music therapist. That was another idea that I had. You know, if the music career doesn't work out, maybe I'll go to grad school for music therapy and become a music therapist. Um, but yeah, like yeah, music's just always been in me. I don't know, since I was 8. So like, there's nothing else I could possibly do. I feel like there's just like I don't know what else I'm good at. So that's
Yeah,
really
for sure. And it's a pretty common thing for musicians. It's kind of like this feeling that you have to do music, sometimes out of necessity, or maybe you could always like get a job at Walmart. I don't know, but like,
yeah,
yeah, but that wouldn't make you happy. So it's better to, just pursue something that you like and just figure out a way to make it work, I would say.
exactly. You just gotta keep grinding and keep going for it. That's the thing.
Well said. And so tell us about college. Where did you go to school? What was that like? Who were your biggest influences there in terms of professors or teachers or your peers?
Okay, so I went to the Jackie McLean Institute for a year and a half. I ended up transferring and finishing up my degree at City College. Um, I would say the professors that stood out to me the most, probably Steve Wilson, um, and I want to say Charnay Wade. Um, those were, I don't know. The problem with like I hate talking about college because I'm like I feel like the way the system is now is kind of like backwards to me because we don't learn a lot in college that we should be learning, especially like the music business aspect of things. But it's probably because the professors aren't aware of a lot of the things that we need to know because it's a different day and age. But I don't know. I was always the student that kept questioning things, which is not like always a good thing. But yeah, I don't really like to talk about college much, to say the least.
Yeah,
But
maybe you can give us some examples of things that you felt were overlooked in college, or things that you learned very quickly after you got out of college that you wish that you had learned earlier.
yeah, for sure. Like as a vocalist, you don't have to scat sing. That's one thing. Like I learned, like I don't know, they engraved in your mind like you have to scat sing. Like it's very important. Like I'm like, but why? Like what if it's just like not something I really enjoy doing? There's so much other things I could do. Um, that and then like also this. I mean, this is jazz school. They want you to learn the history of jazz. They want you to learn like you know the basic like fundamentals and also transcriptions. I never understood why a vocalist needed to do that, to be honest. I get it for an instrumentalist, but as a vocalist, like I said, like scat singing is not like the one thing that I think of right away when I think about music, you know so yeah, I don't know. I feel like jazz school is kind of like narrow-minded in the sense that like is like evolving. It should be a bit more open-minded.
Yeah, and it's definitely true, like you said earlier, that it doesn't really teach you how to get work or how to make a living. It kind of just teaches you a lot of content, transcriptions and harmony and things along those lines. And so that's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast, is to talk to younger folks, or you might call them like up and coming, although I don't like to use that term because in a way it can kind of like minimize like what people are doing. But maybe that is the best term to describe a lot of the folks that I've been speaking with. But it's just been really interesting to kind of get people who are out there in the world, whether that be New York or elsewhere, that are kind of doing the thing. And that's a perspective that I think is very important, because you will not get it in jazz school.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so much you don't learn in music school. It's like crazy to me. But, that's life. You have to learn a lot of stuff on your own. So
Definitely. And so maybe you can tell us where you are based out of now, and the things that you've been up to recently.
so I'm based in New York right now. I've been hosting a weekly jam session on Tuesdays in Brooklyn. Not jazz related, but it's like a neo soul R&B funk jam. So we basically create on the spot, no cover songs. It's just like all improvised music. I got influenced by I don't know if you ever been to. I don't. Are you based out of New York?
No, I'm in upstate New York.
Oh, you are? Oh, cool. I'm from Westchester, New York. So, but there's a thing on Monday nights at New Blue 151. It's a Producer Mondays with Ray Angry of The Roots, and I got like influenced by him to like, there should be more of these type of hangs. Like there should be more of these innovative jam sessions with like great musicians. I feel like, jazz jams have gotten stagnant to me. So trying out something way different and like stepping out of your comfort zone, it like opens your mind so much more. And I've met like tons of musicians that I've never met before by doing my own jam. It's crazy. But aside from that, I do teach. I teach private lessons. You can't, as a vocalist, you can't make a living just being a vocalist, unfortunately.
Yes, not just vocalists.
I know. Well, I know, but like I feel like sidemen have it good, but like, band leaders have a harder time making a living.
For sure.
So you have to have some side hustle. And that, thank God for a college degree, because I probably wouldn't have gotten these things, these teaching opportunities. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on recently. I'm trying to plan some tours, but you know how that is, pain in the butt.
Yes, definitely not easy. And the days of having a record label, book a tour for you or sponsor your tour, those days, I think, are pretty much over, it's safe to say. And so it's something that comes up over and over again on the podcast, which is that being a musician is very much DIY now. It's just like, unless you are, have enough, income coming in where you can afford to have a booking agent or a booking manager or anything along those lines, then for the most part, you're doing everything yourself. And so it's very difficult. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. And it's like they have so many requirements now too for you to even have like a team, like you have to have this amount of followers on Instagram. It's not even about the music, in the end, a lot of the times, which is crazy to me, but that's the music industry.
Yes, I have to pause you for 1 second because the video is out of sync with the audio.
Okay.
Okay, now it's back. Okay, we're good. I'll just cut that like 10 seconds out. So yeah, I wanted to go back to something you said earlier, which was that you feel like jazz jams have become stagnant. And so I was wondering if you could elaborate on that. And, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything but stagnant in what way? Like, is it the fact that people play mostly the same 20 tunes all the time? Is it how do you feel about it?
I feel that, like these jams, everybody runs them the same way. It's like nobody's trying to do something different with them. So, like, you show up, and like you said, they play the same tunes, or like, I don't mind that there's like young college students that are going to jam, right? But most of them don't know like any tunes. So if I want to sing a song, I have to call at least 10 songs for them to figure out one that they know. And they're like they're standards, and but it's all like a learning experience though. I think it's definitely something that is for more so college students now, like jam sessions. Just because, you learn new tunes, you meet new people. It's like a great way of networking. But I feel like, because I've heard many stories from musicians who have been living here for like 20 years that like this is not how jams used to be like back in the day, like older musicians would kick you in the ass if you're not doing shit right. Sorry to curse. I'm not sure I'm allowed to curse, but
this is a podcast, and it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, yeah, because like even like with my jam, how I run it, like I don't want to be like mean, but I do kick people off the bandstand, like if they're not playing the music like how it's supposed to be played. You know what I mean? Like music's supposed to be musical. It's not supposed to just be like, oh, I'm gonna just play this because I hear this and I'm not listening to anybody else around me. Like I had one guy go up who was like, I think I could play the drums, and I'm like, oh no. So he goes up on he goes up on the drums, and he's like on the cymbals, like trying to be like avant-garde and stuff, and I was like, if you don't know how to play the drums, get off the stage. And then he's like, oh my God, it was really embarrassing. Like he was like walking off and he kept knocking things over. I was like, yo.
Yikes. I mean, it just happen. It just happens. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. But yeah, I guess that is one way to kind of get around the fact that, well, it's kind of that moment that we've all experienced, many times. You're at a session or whatever, and everyone's just kind of standing around like, hey, what do you want to play? I don't know. What do you want to play? Well, how about this tune? Oh, I don't know that. Well, how about this tune? Oh, well, he doesn't know that. It just takes forever. And so I guess one way is to kind of do what you're doing at your jam and just say, okay, we're not going to play any tunes. We're just going to wing it. We're going to make something up and try and make something musical. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely like a way of going about it. But like also, I feel, if you don't know a tune, you don't know a tune, just like, figure it out. This is supposed to be a learning experience. Don't be like a little bitch, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess because I don't know, it's different for instrumentalists, but like, I don't know. It just bothers me. Like, it's just not as enjoyable as it used to be, I guess. But I guess it's because I'm like kind of, I've been on the jazz scene for 6 years now, so I'm like, yeah, I know what's to be expected at jam sessions. So, yeah.
I think the audio is out of sync. Can you say something?
Hello. Is it out of sync?
No, it's back now. See,
okay.
This is weird. Whatever. We'll deal with it. Yeah, so as someone who runs a jam session, that's kind of interesting to me. Like, what are some things that you wish people would do more or do less when they come or when they show up to your session and want to play? What are some, like, maybe like, I don't know, you might call them like jam session, like etiquette things that people should not do, like that guy who just thought that he could play the drums?
Yeah. Well, also about the thing is, like, when you go to for me, when I personally go to a jam session, I don't necessarily go up to sing. Like, I just check, like, absorb it first to see if it's like what I want to, if I'm feeling motivated to go up. You don't always have to play at a jam session. It's good to just like meet people in general, to go to just meet people. You don't have to play. Also, like with my jam, I guess it's kind of different because it's not, like I said, it's not cover songs, it's not jazz standards, it's just creating on the spot. But I think one thing that I'm trying to do with it is like have it like be like one long song basically. So people just go up on stage and they take they plug into their bass and they play. Like they switch with another musician, and everybody's been great with that. Like nobody's like arguing with like one another, like, oh, it's my turn to play, like that type of thing. Because I know how it could be. Like some sessions are like people like get angry if they can't play, and I'm like, well, why do you get angry about that? Just like enjoy the moment. So yeah, like I think people need to realize that it's more of like a networking experience, and it's a way of like creating with people that you wouldn't normally create with. It's collaboration. So that's how I perceive it. I don't know.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I think that's probably safe to say. Definitely want to. Well, yeah. I mean, you don't always have to play. It's not. I don't know. It's just some sessions, like, I won't name any places, but like they just seem too cutthroat. Like it's just kind of like everybody is so intent on showing up to play that you end up like cutting people off and like all these sorts of things that are just like not cool. It's just like chill out. Like I don't know. But so on the vocal side, what would be your advice, if anything, to a young vocalist, whether they be male or female or whatever, who wants to do the same kind of thing that you're doing now? What do you think are some important things that they should focus on, whether that be like musical or music business?
Okay. Well, I would say that it, like, specifically for, like, God, that's a hard question. I gotta think a little bit. Like, it took me a bit of time to like figure out like what I wanted to do musically. I think the best bet is like I'm actually a mentor right now for women in jazz. I'm a mentor for a girl that goes to the University of Miami, But like I was saying to her, like, if you're gonna sing jazz standards, sing songs that relate to your life, relate to what you're going through, because that's like the best way to tell a story. Like if you're gonna pick a song just because someone told you to pick that song and to do that song, it's not really like putting in your putting your best foot forward and putting your stamp on the music, I also think that especially younger vocalists, like they shouldn't. This is the problem with also jazz school. Like they want you to sing a certain way, right? So like when I got out of school, I was like so angry because I'm like, I don't want to sound like somebody from the 20s. Like I want to sound like myself. That's like one thing that I feel like a lot of young vocalists should be aware of. Like you don't have to sing like your Ella Fitzgerald. Like this is the 21st century. Like do your own thing. Do your, figure out what you want to do for yourself, not what's right in the jazz world, So.
Absolutely. Can't disagree with either of those things. I mean, yeah, definitely. Those are important things to think about. And so let's fast forward a little bit. You have a new record out recently, but this is not your first record. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is my second album, second full-length album. Yeah.
Gotcha. So maybe we can back up and maybe you can tell us a few words about the first album, how that came about, what the concept was, and maybe how that has evolved now into your second record.
Yeah, so the first album is primarily jazz standards, but like my arrangements of them, like R&B arrangements. There's a few originals on there, and there's also 2 pop tunes that I did jazz arrangements of. But basically, I got out of college and I was like, okay, it's time to record an album. That's like the first thing I thought of. And I started arranging like at the end of college. So, but I like this whole Perception is the name of the first album. And I think conceptually when it comes to like putting an album together, obviously I recorded maybe a few too many songs, but I didn't put them all on the record because I realized it didn't work with what the concept of the album was. So the album is basically about how New York has like changed my perception and like, of the way I view things. But also like, it's kind of like an ironic album. Like, oh, how do people label me as, like what's their perception of me? So that's the whole spiel with the first album. And then so that was like a jazz record, I guess. That's my first jazz record. This newest one is 7 original tunes and then one song from the musical Spring Awakening. So it's called Stronger, and basically I went home for 6 months, took a break from New York, and wrote this album. And it's about how, I became stronger as an individual, how, I wrote a song about someone close to me who has mental health issues going on, and a lot of it has to do with mental health and like self-empowerment and all of that. Not like, I know like people are like, oh, it's a women's empowerment album. I'm like, no, not really. Like, that's not what I'm trying to like say. It's more like, finding yourself, figuring out what you want for yourself, and that's what Stronger is about. So.
What was the impetus for you to take a 6-month break from the city? Was it just a general feeling of being burnt out, or was it something else?
It's definitely burnt out. I also I got out of a really bad relationship, and I needed to take a break from the New York life. I don't know, there's a lot of different changes going on, and I was getting in this mental state, oh man, nobody understands me as an artist, why am I here? Why am I in New York? Nobody I feel like nobody appreciates what I do, da, 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 da. Like getting those thoughts in my head, and I was like, I need to go home for a bit and just like clear my mind. And obviously home is like only like 45 minutes away from here, but still, like I didn't come back to New York. I was just like, no, I can't be there. I just can't. Like it's just, I don't know, you get in your head a lot because you see, especially with social media, I think social media like makes it the worst. Like you see all these people acting like they're doing really well, but we all know that they just post stuff to make it look like they're doing well, you know?
No doubt. And this topic has come up a lot on the podcast just because if you especially want to make it as a leader or someone who is putting out their own music and stuff like that, then social media is something that you are probably going to have to be a part of. Now, if you want to be a sideman and just have the phone ring and then you don't need social media. That's great. But if you want to do, you know, the kinds of things that someone like you is doing, then social media is something that you kind of have to grapple with. And, you know, exactly like you're saying, it kind of just shows the highlights, but doesn't show like all the drudgery and other and basically just the hard work that it took to get to those highlights. And so, so that's definitely an important topic for sure. But then also I want to circle back to the whole genre thing, because you mentioned that your first record was more of on the jazz side of things, and I always have a tough time with genres. I actually find that I don't spend that much time thinking about them at all because it doesn't really matter. It's kind of just
it's music.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just a label, but I mean, labels can be useful, I guess, and they're especially like useful to, I don't know, like Barnes and Noble when they're like deciding what section they put your album in. I don't know, but
yeah.
I don't know, but how do you think, or how would you attempt to describe the kind of music that is on your second album and the kind of music that you are creating now?
I would say it's like progressive rock / jazz / R&B. It's funny because I actually like pitched this album to like tons of jazz publicists, and they're like, nope, this is not jazz. We can't pitch this. Sorry. And I'm like, God. So I had to like find a publicist that wasn't even jazz related. And in the end, all these publications didn't know what to say about my music because they're like, I don't know how to label it. And I'm like, why does it have to be labeled? Can't you just like put words on a piece of paper and know what to say about the music? You're a writer. This is what you do for a living. But I don't know. That's another thing. Like, I feel like a lot of these writers aren't as educated about music as they're supposed to be. But yeah, it's been really difficult, like changing into this new genre. Like it's just, it's been very hard to get the attention that like the jazz record got. You know what I mean? Like it was easy to pitch the jazz record because it was jazz. Like people, you know, you get a jazz publicist to do the jazz record, you're good to go. But trying to find someone that to do a whole other genre of music that you don't even know what it is. Like, because I labeled it as indie rock, and then all these publications were like, no, indie rock is more like pop music now. And I'm like, what? You know, like, it's like, so frustrating, but nonetheless.
Yeah, and it's definitely subjective, and obviously there's no hard line. You know, I hear stuff all the time, and I'm just like, okay, is this jazz? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how to really define it precisely, but yeah, maybe you can tell us about some of your biggest influences that are non-jazz, as you've been talking about, you know, mixing, I don't know if you would call it indie rock or like just other genres. Who are some of your biggest influences outside of like straight ahead jazz?
I'd say Bon Iver, Hiatus Coyote, let's see, Circa Survive. And it's like, it's all like random, but I don't know, Stevie Wonder, you know, there's a lot of different stuff. Amy Winehouse was I feel like that she's like the up there for me. Like that's, her whole sound was very unique and interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's funny too, because a lot of people now, like when they hear me, they're like, oh, you sound like this artist and this artist. And I'm like, I never even listened to these artists. Like, it's weird to me when people say that, you know? like Sade, you sound like Sade. I'm like, really? Josh Stone. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it kind of just goes to show that you never really know how you're coming off to people. It probably happens to a lot of musicians, that same sort of thing where they play a solo and someone comes up to them and they're just like, hey, you sound like this person. And from the musician's point of view, it's just like, I don't know what you're talking about, but if that's what you heard, then more power to you.
Yeah. But also, like, this new music too, I think the problem, I guess it's not like a problem, but like to publications, there's so many different like chord progressions and harmonies and stuff that it is jazz influenced. So they don't know how to label it in that sense. That's why, because pop tunes are like 4 basic chords. So that's what they're used to hearing. So that's what they want to hear. And also a lot of music nowadays that's popular is not actual instrumentation. It's like electronic instruments, Ableton and, production stuff rather than a live band. So they're not used to hearing that sound, that earthy sound of a band,
For sure. And, we've touched on, a lot of things that might be, looked at as problems like problems with jazz school or like problems with sessions. But I wanted to ask you, like, on a positive note, what are you optimistic about, or what are you looking forward to getting to do maybe for the first time, or you getting to do more of in 2020?
Well, I definitely feel that now that I know where I want my music to go, it's like really opened up my like mind and my ears differently. So I'm excited to see like the next I guess the next part of my musical creativity, I also, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but because it's not announced yet, but I'll be performing at Winter Jazz Fest this year, so I'm really stoked about that. If I think they're supposed to like announce it today or tomorrow. So
when is that, Kristina?
In January.
January.
Yeah. So like if they post about it, then you can you put it in the podcast. But yeah, like I feel like every year there's one big accomplishment. Like there's not like, I don't know. That's what I've noticed. Like every year there's something different that changes in my career that makes me keep going. Like if there wasn't something like that, like to keep the momentum going, I think it would be very hard to continue to grow as a musician. So it's like encouraging to know that people actually like understand where I'm coming from musically. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's safe to say. There's always going to be an audience for anything that is done well and done to the best of someone's ability. So personally, I'm pretty optimistic, although I don't think about genres too much. And at this point, it's just like, it's just so not clearly defined to me in any way, because it's just, especially with the advent of the internet and all that, it's just so much cross-pollination and everything. So yeah, so hopefully 2020 will be a great year. I think I really think it will be. And so where's the best place for people to find you?
On Instagram, K Koller Music, or you can go on my website, KristinaKoller.net, and also Spotify and all the other streaming devices.
Right on. If people check out the any of your albums on Spotify or wherever, can they purchase a copy from you?
Yeah, you could go on to, I think on CD Baby you can purchase it. So
right on. Yeah, that's always something I like to recommend, with streaming, if you like the album, go check it out, make sure that you enjoy it. But if you do enjoy it, then support the artist, go buy it. And so I can't recommend it that process highly enough. So yeah, man, this is awesome. I appreciate you coming on, Kristina.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Stay on the line for 1 second, and thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you happen to be listening to this. And if you enjoyed the podcast, consider giving it a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. For more episodes, please visit BerniesBootlegs.com. Thanks again, and see you guys next time.